George? I'm sorry, what was the question? What was the primary theme of Boris the Whale's poem, The King's Girl? Can you tell me? Grief? I'm afraid that's incorrect, Mr. Smith. The actual primary theme of his poem, like very few of his work, is lust. As we know from the past few weeks, Boris the Whale mainly focuses on grief. His poems are very morbid and focuses on very macabre themes. So The King's Girl is one of the very few that focuses not grief or the macabre, but in fact, lust. And that's really important for the next essay, okay? We have to really make sure that we do that, okay? Oh, everyone, you can all leave. George, can I speak with you for a moment? Yes, sir? Is everything all right, sir? I was just doing the register and noticed that you're not on my list. I'm not? It's George Smith, isn't it? Yes, that's right, Mr. Stewart. Yeah, your name's not on here. Well, I enrolled quite late into this course, and I think the ladies at the office are just trying to readjust things because I went in so late. So that's probably why that's that. Ah, I see. And I will let the office know that it hasn't gone through. Sure thing, Mrs. Stewart. So I'll see you next week. See you, sir. George? George, can you please pay attention? Oh, of course, sir. Sorry. That's okay. So, as I was saying, so Boris the Whale really focuses on real world experience. As we know, he has drawn his grief and his macabre from his childhood relation with Catherine Brothshaw. Throughout his entire life, he brought his childhood love and his lost and his complete, utter self-destruction of his childhood love into his poems. So what I was thinking is that we can do a class discussion, and as a little element in the essay for the end of term, I would like a poem brought out from real world experience that really harnesses grief and very strong emotion. Emily, can you please start us off? Sure. Well, from the top of my head, I'd say probably the death of my childhood dog, Roxy. I don't think I'll ever get over her death. You know, I'd say from preschool to like year 9, every day Roxy would greet me at the door. I think I would do my final report on her and my grief process through that. Brilliant. Excellent. Exactly what I'm talking about. Harnessing real life events and pushing them out into art and creating poetry. Adeline, let's see what you have to offer. Sure. Well, I also suffered with the death of a pet, so I can't really do the same thing, can I? So, I'd say the loss of my favourite sun hat for when I was a kid. It was blue with purple flowers on it, and I only realised it was missing by the time we got home. So I was devastated for weeks. So yeah, raw childhood lost things. Excellent. And I love how you didn't just do what Emily did. Amazing. George, would you like to contribute to this discussion? Last summer my parents told me to get some seeds out of the garden for a cake they wanted to bake for supper. I was busy writing a story I was working on when they called me. I knew natural vegetation like I knew my talent for writing. Flawless and exact. I went out into the field. I knew exactly what I was looking for. I couldn't have been there for less than 5 minutes as the sun was beginning to go down. Nearly dark, I didn't question what was in my basket. I returned to the story I was writing and gave the seeds to my mother to put them straight into the mixing bowl. The story was flowing out of me, so I decided to skip dinner that night. The sound of my family's cheers was so deafening when the cake came to the table that I put one finger in my ear and wrote with the other. But I took a finger out of my ear because something was telling me something didn't feel right. I stood up, crept down the stairs, and ducked into the dining room. My stories was what took my family away from me, and I write to keep them alive. Thank you, everyone. You can all leave now. George, I'm so desperately sorry for your loss. I had no idea you were involved with... I don't think the Dean would be too happy if I allowed you to do your final report on that topic. But if you did, you would get an A star for that. I'm sorry. Please don't apologise, George. I had no idea that happened to you. I'm sorry I didn't tell you earlier, Adeline. This isn't the best time to accuse you of anything, George. But I actually did check with the ladies in the office, and I'm afraid there is no record on George Smith in their files. What? George, please don't leave. Thank you for today, Mr. Stewart. I know exactly what I'm going to do for my report. That's great, Adeline. No one questioned it? Well, that's the strange thing, honey. He's gotten away with it this entire time. Even during the mid-semester exam, he was just allowed to walk in. Well, to be honest, I didn't really think of that, but judging from his classroom contributions and his assignments, it's unlike anything I've ever read from a student his age. How so? It's beyond professionalism. It's beyond Boris Lowell. It's beyond Poe. It's... once he graduates, once he becomes a published writer, his work will without a doubt become a classic. Especially with what I found out about him today. What did you find out, honey? I better not say it. You have to tell me. Probably everyone in the class. I reckon everyone was thinking that he was technically a murderer. What? I tried to relax him and say that it would be good material for his final report. Final report? He's not even a student. Did you think you just walk into a random classroom after committing a felony? Do we know anything about him? Where does he live? I have no idea where he lives. All I know is that his name is George Smith, which is as vague as that is. You know what? Smith could be a lie as well. Who knows what he's talking about? I can't even... How could he even live with himself after what he did? It'll make a brilliant poem. Derek Stewart, are you on his side? This is not about poetry. This is not about art anymore. Well, I can't even... Is anyone close to him in your class? One girl, Adeline. I mean, after he finished talking about it, it would seem that she didn't know either. Tomorrow. First thing. Get his address. Find him. Whoever this George Smith may be, his writings won't help him. I hope you're right. And that's why he included that particular line in his poetry. And that's the bell. Please make sure that you include your own poetry as well as a selected Boris Lowell poem that we have discussed in class. Make sure you have those two in your appendices in your report. Adeline, can I please speak to you before you leave? Yes, sir. Do you know why George isn't here today? I have no idea, sir. That's a shame. Yeah, sorry. One final question, Adeline. Yes. You wouldn't have to have George's address, would you? I would like to return some of his reports from the previous few weeks to him. As a matter of fact, I do. Wonderful. I have it in here somewhere. George? 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 Are you sitting at your desk, or...?